any case, he walked into a store on Hollywood Boulevard, toy store, magic shop, and saw a bunch of masks, was looking for something he could take, and they didn't have money to design, obviously. So he wanted to get something that was already made, and he saw a Captain Kirk mask, which is what he used as the template. And the reason he didn't know it was Captain Kirk, he just saw this blank face, and he went, whoa, I could make something with that. Who is that? So the guy told him. And then he went back home, cut out the eyes, did the hair weird, did some white on. I mean, he did something very simple but profound, because that mask is a lot of what makes this whole franchise so creepy. And you got to hand it to, again, another actor, so to speak, in the making of this movie that makes it complete, which Tommy Lee Wallace is a big factor in that.
From the original and the best Halloween. Let's come on out. We've got Nick, we've got PJ. Well, sit wherever you like, please. Please, indeed. Consider yourselves in charge. PJ, you can have any chair you like, including the chair of anyone in here.
It's okay. It's okay.
Oh, this is nice.
There's blood on it. I made that up.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, I like to do this because Silver Scream Con, we're in year 3. It's a relatively new con, but who here is at your first horror convention, period?
Wow.
See? Wow. That's my favorite thing about this. It's just the whole horror community is widening and growing, and it's a big, happy family. And Mr. Castle, did you ever imagine that you'd be here talking about this?
Yes.
I don't mean like this morning, did you imagine?
Well, I mean, about a week ago, I thought, hey, I'm going to be in Massachusetts.
It's almost impossible to overstate the significance of the original Halloween film to everything that's happening around us. Because even as we're doing these other panels, and of course we're talking about Scream and all these movies that we all love, none of this exists without John Carpenter and his original film. I mean, it's...
Yes.
And as I was joking with a good friend of mine who was one of the producers on the Last trilogy last night, I was saying, who could have imagined we live in a time where there have been 3 Halloween 2s? And it'd probably be a 4th Halloween 2.
That's right.
So knowing that we have a lot of folks here who are at their first convention, I tried to wait for you. Speaking of the recent Halloween franchise trilogy,
Nick told me I didn't belong here.
Oh no, we insist.
Bastard.
You're not old enough.
How you guys doing? Sorry to crash late.
Oh, please.
I hope it
crash anytime. I was just afraid you were going to crash in the mask with the knife. That was going to be terrifying.
No, I don't do that. You can't pay me enough money to do that.
So, if you could tell us a little bit about the journey of, how you found yourself even mixed up in this to begin with.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, who is born after this movie was released? Oh, that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. So I got to tell John, he doesn't understand this whole phenomena. No, he does. He goes to some. He's going to be in Richmond, by the way. If anybody's close to Richmond in a couple of months, you'll get to meet John Carpenter.
Rich.
Where?
Or Rich.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're in Richmond or if you're rich.
If you're rich.
The way I got involved with this is I was a student at the University of Southern California Film School in the late 60s, early 70s. John was my classmate. We did movies together. We did one that won an Academy Award for short subject. So we were big shit coming out of college. It took another 10 years to get our next movie going. No, John actually did a movie out of film school. Who has ever seen Dark Star? A few of you. Oh, well, there's a lot of people haven't seen it. It's something to look up and, rent. A very funny movie. It stars his partner in that movie, Dan O'Bannon, who wrote the very first Alien. So we had some very talented people coming out of the University of Southern California Film School. I worked on that picture with John, not Alien, but Dark Star. And when this started, he came around, this would have been his third movie. He was shooting it near where we both lived in the Hollywood Hills. And I went down to where they were prepping the sets because I knew he was going to be down there. And while I was walking around, I said, John, what if I stuck around on the set and watched, the whole process, because I wanted to be a director myself. And he said, fine, but why don't you do something while you're on the picture? And I said, what? He said, here. And he handed me the mask, put that on, and that was it. That was that. He said it was a very nonchalant. There was I didn't have to walk. I didn't have to talk, obviously, because the guy doesn't talk. But, and that was it. We did 4 or 5 weeks later, whatever it was, it was all over. And I got to kill a bunch of people and have a lot of fun.
And I love that you mentioned that first film, too, because something that's come up in these panels consistently in the last 2 days is comedy. And I think so many of us are fans of music, movies, comedy, and the idea that there was humor in some of the stuff that you guys were doing prior to Halloween. And I think that continues. There's always this little bit of levity that, it's like in a heavy song, you want the heavy parts to be the heaviest thing you've ever heard. You want the melodic parts to be the most melodic thing. And I think horror films work the same ways a lot of times, where it's like those moments of levity are fun. And you guys have those sensibilities. You also mentioned Dan O'Bannon, which I don't know, those of you who are familiar with the story of the unmade Dune film, one of the first few times that they tried to make Dune. But yeah, that was like, Dan O'Bannon was about to just leave the business after all of that. And then
yeah, he was a great writer, very good actor. You'll see in Dark Star because he's one of the leads, and a really great production design guy. Think up amazing stories. He worked with this when Dune was first being realized with Jodorowsky as the director. That's where he worked with Giger, who's the designer of the Alien, and he brought that designer onto the production of Alien. And that's why, so you have all these kind of interconnecting human beings that together create wonderful art.
And I love that these near misses then end up in these happy accidents of these masterpieces like the first Alien and the first Halloween.
Yeah.
Incredible. You mentioned, of course, being put in the mask. For those of you who aren't aware, we know kind of the Michael Myers mask history, yeah. But can we talk a little bit about, again, a happy accident, what's now an iconic mask that this gentleman to your right has worn, how that originated?
Well, this was, it was actually a found object, first of all. It was the production designer, editor, and really close friend of John Carpenter's on the set was Tommy Lee Wallace. Maybe some of you have met Tommy. He is not only a great production designer, but a really good director. He directed Halloween 3, which has gotten
Silver Screen Con 3, Halloween 3. We can give it up for Season of the Witch. Man, that thing has found its home in people's hearts. And
a lot of good movies. He did the TV version of It, which was, I thought, really well done.
Tim Curry.
With Tim Curry, yep. And any case, he walked into a store on Hollywood Boulevard, toy store, magic shop, and saw a bunch of masks, was looking for something he could take, and they didn't have money to design, obviously. So he wanted to get something that was already made, and he saw a Captain Kirk mask, which is what he used as the template. And the reason he didn't know it was Captain Kirk, he just saw this blank face, and he went, whoa, I could make something with that. Who is that? So the guy told him. And then he went back home, cut out the eyes, did the hair weird, did some white on. He did something very simple but profound, because that mask is a lot of what makes this whole franchise so creepy. And you got to hand it to, again, another actor, so to speak, in the making of this movie that makes it complete, which Tommy Lee Wallace is a big factor in that.
I mean, Halloween is a great example of it takes a village, right? In terms of even just giving a personification to the shape.
And then you had the example, what happened throughout this thing, but James can tell you about this, is that then you come to 40 years later and someone now has to redesign the mask. What's it going to look like? It's supposedly the same mask, but it's 40 years. How does it degenerate? And another great artist, Chris Nelson, then put that together and put it on this guy's head.
Indeed. I do feel I need to pay some attention to my left, though. Be back to you in a moment, sir. PJ, tell us about your introduction into this whole world and how you ended up part of this.
As a young actress, you auditioned, so I was called in to audition. Surprisingly, John was the only one there. Usually you see a casting person. I read with him, and he asked me if I'd like to do the part.
Louder.
I said, of course. And he asked me to wait and choose my boyfriend. So there were 3 guys out there, and I fell in love with John.
I won.
For
But you had a pick, so there's a multiverse where you chose someone else, right?
I'm sorry, what?
Somewhere in the multiverse, you picked someone else as your boyfriend.
Was there somebody that went on to be hugely famous?
You know, I don't remember.
Yeah,
the
who
other
did you
2
pass
guys.
on is what we're
You were
trying to
the
get at.
only one. Who did I pass on?
The only one.
I don't know. I read with 3 guys, and we had a connection.
And that's a great segue. Same question for you. How did you end
It's
up doing something?
basically the same thing for me. I was a young actor. I was doing a lot of commercials and stuff like that. I was in those Dr. Pepper commercials in the 70s. And I stumbled into the audition, and I read the script and I thought, I read the scene and I thought, well, this is terrible. This is going to be awful. But it was great fun with PJ, and of course, seeing the film later, I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, this is a really good film. How did that happen? So yeah.
I love that you were in a Dr. Pepper commercial because I forever associate Halloween with Dr. Pepper.
Do you?
That great photo of, you guys know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
Anyway.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
Some of you know what I'm
love
talking
that.
about.
Oh, that's
Michael
great.
Myers drinking Dr. Pepper.
That is a nice connection. There's a cosmic connection.
At,
That's cool.
at what point did the 3 of you begin to understand that this movie was a phenomenon? I mean, of course, it was a low-budget film. It was a short shoot, shoestring budget, as they say, and then obviously we're still talking about it, and it was the template for all of these other films to come.
It took a long time.
Yeah, I
Wasn't
think
until these conventions
the conventions.
started up, really.
And even that, I mean, for 20 years, I don't think I really talked to that many people about being in the film.
Wow.
It wasn't something I told everybody, it was just like, it came up occasionly, but so
then every Halloween,
every
come
Halloween
around,
it would come
and
out.
then
People
suddenly
go,
they were playing
"Is
it
that
in
you?
theaters."
That's you." But really, the conventions and how they just keep growing. Like all you guys are here for your first convention. I mean, it just keeps growing and growing and growing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's really amazing.
Yep. And sorry, James, but they love the first one best.
Which is
Good.
You're too far away.
which is a great segue.
What did you say?
I said they love the first one best.
PJ, just because you're dead doesn't mean you're going to stay on.
So before we get into you donning the mask, let's talk about your experience with the franchise in general. Like, what was your early recollections of seeing a Halloween movie? What can you tell us about?
Well, I in 4th grade, I knew I was going to make films. And so I had always watched, I started making my own films in 5th grade with my dad's 1950s era Kodak 8mm tri-lens camera. And so when I would go see movies in high school and college, I was always looking through a different lens. I was always watching movies a different way. I had a date. We went to the theater, saw Halloween 1978, and there were 3 films in that era that I walked out of the theater going, holy shit, this is a game changer. That was one of them. The other was Rocky, and the other was Star Wars. There were these 3
You weren't
films,
wrong.
right? I walked out of the theater. I didn't even remember who I was dating. I can't remember her. I can hardly remember her face. But the thing is, it was there are just game-changing films along the way. little would I know that 40 years later I'd be emulating and filling the shoes of this great man next to me. So it was quite it definitely impacted me. And then like everybody, I was moved by some Halloween movies. I was not so moved by others. But I appreciated all of them for sure.
And then at what point did you, were you even in sort of contention for possibly donning the mask and being part of this new iteration?
Well, the way that happened was I had stopped, I had focused completely on writing and producing my own stuff. I was really just tired of the game and not really desiring to audition much anymore. And so my thing was, if I get a call from a friend, I'll work. Otherwise, I'm focused on my stuff. And so I moved back to South Carolina, where I went to high school and college. And I was just completely focused on that, and bought a house and just buried myself in my work. And I get a call from the stunt coordinator from the Rob Zombie films, and he said, "Hey, we're doing another Halloween," and I knew they were in South Carolina, but I wasn't going to reach out. I'm not going to work for anything. If it comes to me, I do it. If I don't, I don't. So he says, "Yeah, we're doing another Halloween." I was like, "Oh man, great! You're gonna have a great time." He goes, "Yeah, well." I read the script, and I had called David Gordon Green and Malcolm Codd, and I said, whoever plays this role has to have really deep acting chops and has to be a really good stuntman, and there just aren't many of those guys around. Most people really focus on stunts or really focus on acting, and frankly, most actors are horrible stunt people, and most stunt people can act their way out of a wet paper bag, and so, but I kind of focused on both. Stella Adler was my coach. She was Marlon Brando's coach. Wow. Yeah. I had a private coach at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art.
Any cinephiles and movie nerds in here know that name, Stella Adler.
Yeah, and I had a private coach at the Royal Academy. There were several great coaches I had. I worked really hard at it, and then of course stunts is that's practical. Like you learn from doing high falls, you learn from doing fights, crashing cars, and laying down motorcycles, and all the fun stuff. I did martial arts starting from 7th grade. I boxed in college. So I had all these the skill sets. So Ron says, so David Gordon Green says to Ron, well, he's got to be 6'3", 200 pounds, and he's got to be in his 60s. Who do you know? And so Ron brought me in. I don't know who else they looked at that point, but I know when I went down to Charleston from Columbia, they put me on tape. I went through all the processes of movement and history and acting, and my very first film, I spent a weekend in a psych ward in a lockdown with schizophrenic killers. So I had some fun experience with psychopathic killers, and
I believe we call them neurodivergent killers now.
Neurodivergent. Yeah, okay, there you go. And so I went down, got put on tape. I literally got out in the parking lot and got in my pickup truck, because if you live in the South, you've got to have a pickup truck. And I got a call from Los Angeles, from Blumhouse, and they said, "Are you available?" And I was like, yeah, whatever. That's the kiss of death. So I went, okay, this ain't going anywhere. I didn't even get to the freeway, and they called me back, and they said, "David wants to meet you. Can you come back?" So I guess it was a week or two later. I went back, and I met Malik and Ryan Turek, and all the
Ryan Turek, you say? That guy?
Hey, Ryan, what up, buddy?
The producer of the last 3 Halloweens, right over here and in the building.
So we went through the paces, and then they said, "Okay, so we're going to start in October or whatever." And then I didn't hear a frickin' word, and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, this is the way this shit works, right?" So I just kept doing my stuff, and then all of a sudden I got the call, and there you have it. It was one of those things that was just felt like it was meant to be, and I think the important process for me was. When I got there was a great character actor named Ted Knight, who gave me a wonderful, wonderful gift. Caddyshack, Mary Tyler Moore Show, right? I was young, hadn't even worked on one movie yet, and he said, if you want to be a great actor, learn to emulate. Emulate the bartender, emulate your mother, emulate the guy walking down the street, but don't try to walk the way they walk or talk the way they talk. Reach into their soul. If you can grab their soul, you will naturally do everything the way they do it. So what I did was, before I went down to put on tape, I watched the 78 version one time, and all I was doing was reaching into what Nick had so naturally created. And there's one scene where he's walking camera left to camera right in the backyard, and I went, I got it. I don't even know what I got, but I got it. So I never practiced to walk. I never looked in the mirror. I never, none of that. I just knew if I could grab the essence of what Nick created, so the simple truth is, I could never have done what I did if Nick Castle hadn't done what he did. That's a fact.
And I want my essence back now.
And his agent will be in contact for his essence rights. Yeah. Appreciate that. Was there a conversation at that time of it was kind of this arc of the trilogy of kills and ends, or was it just like, hey, we're going to do the one movie and hopefully it does well and maybe we'll do more? Or did you know that you were signing up for a 3-film commitment?
David told me where it was going, but David, because of the nature of the way David works, and I think every great director does this, it's like they don't mess with you unless they have to. And so I came in prepared, I came in hot. The basic direction he gave me was like, well, I want you to move cat-like. He called me up after I was cast. I'm sitting on my couch with my cat, Parsival, and he calls me and said, well, I need you to move like a cat. I went, well, that's funny. Parsival's on my lap right now, and I watched him hunt and chase down raccoons. He's a badass. He goes, all right, good enough. So anyways, and that was it. That was the essence of direction. And I knew that there was a trilogy. I knew, but that wasn't important. What's important was the moment. What was important is what we did. And so the rest is just sort of natural history,
Now, doing the first one, there couldn't have been any idea, right? Or was there, of there might be a second one, let alone multiple more? But it was just and part of, I think, what works about it so great is it is it's a masterpiece, and it works as a self-contained story, but there is enough there to obviously move forward. But do you remember when there was first an inkling that you started to hear that there'd be a Halloween 2?
That's a good question. No, certainly not at the time. I remember thinking, geez, I hope John gets another job out of this thing.
We were dead. John and I were dead, so it didn't matter.
And now we know that even that doesn't necessarily stick.
Yeah, no, the immediate release of the movie, the first few weeks, it didn't look good for the movie. It didn't pop out right away. It took reviewers, especially people like Roger Ebert, who saw it. Roger, if you don't know him, was a really important national figure in film critique.
And those of you who might like to read books, I recommend Your Movie Sucks, one of my favorite books of all time, by the great Roger Ebert.
Yep. And he saw what a lot of people saw in John's direction and the way this was handled, this little B movie, and said, this is something to watch. And people, it kind of spread around. And then it became, within the year, maybe year and a half or two, the biggest grossing independent movie of all time at the time. So we knew it at that point. I remember the first week when I went to a movie theater in Hollywood and looked at it, and because, I wanted to see how people reacted, and it just was great. I called John and I said, John, it works in the theater. He went, really? Yeah, it's working. So, you don't know.
We talked a lot about the music, the score, right?
Oh,
that was such a big part of it. John's music in the movie. That was a big part of what people were talking about, too. You got to hear the music. It's so creepy.
Oh, the music. Yeah. That was an interesting story, too, because I remember Tommy, who edited the pictures, they watched the movie without music, the whole thing through, and they went, I think it's working. John went off 3 days and came back with a score, and they put that on and went, holy shit, that really works now. So you could see the effect of a good score, and also how effortless it was for John. That's how smart he is to come up with that score in 3 days that has remained, such an important, piece of film history.
Every haunted house, every October, everywhere around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing to think about how, because whenever I think about the original Halloween, it's like so many things that we take for granted as tropes or cliches in horror movies and things that have been reinvented and paid homage to and all that. Like, you guys were inventing them in that film. That's just, it's incredible. You couldn't have had any idea, of course, that you were, but just like really creating a genre.
Totally.
You knew, right? You knew. PJ knew.
One of the things.
I'll be right back.
Yeah,
That's that.
exactly.
See anything you like.
Many things. So we have a microphone here, and that is for all of you lovely folks to ask your questions. Just ask that you tell us your name and where you're from, and there's got to be more people with Halloween questions. And if you could keep it to one question, because we do have a standing room only crowd.
Hi. So, mostly kind of for John on this one, but was rewatching the movie last week, and the iconic death scene where you're pinned to the wall and Michael does his head tilt, and you do your twitching toes, the death throws there. And it struck me, I wonder if one of the casting requirements was a guy with good-looking feet. Did they make you get a pedicure beforehand?
That is the most 2024
Yes,
question.
I made him take off his shoes.
No gnarly toes allowed.
I don't remember making you take off your shoes.
Yeah,
but-
I don't think that was a requirement, but I have to tell you that I think I'm pretty lousy in the film, but I really think my feet are great. And I'm not sure if they slowed them down a little bit, but they look great. I love the dying feet.
And I do subscribe to your OnlyFans, so they are. It's worth every penny, you guys.
It's Bob. OnlyFans.
Well, thank you.
Hi, my name is Raven. I'm from Indiana. And
Speak into the mic a little bit more.
my name is Raven from Indiana. And I've just got questions for James and Nick. Sorry, I'm kind of tall, so I got to lean down into it. I'm sure you guys know.
You're not Tyler Maine, are you?
God, no. God, no. I've been compared to the kid in the movie, but not Tyler. But I did want to kind of get the blessing from Nick and James just on the mask itself. I worked on it myself, and I'd just like to know what you guys think about it.
Chris Nelson's fired.
Very nice. I'm glad to hear.
Looks like you did a nice job there.
I'm very glad. I don't have any questions about the movie. I do a lot of research, but I'm glad that you guys think so. Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
Okay, cool.
By the way, that's one of my favorite things in the horror community are people that make masks and props, and it's killer. Attention to detail.
My name's Kevin. I'm from Massachusetts. I actually graduated in this building. I just have a question for John. In Halloween Kills, there's a picture of Bob that they show on a screen from high school, and I know that's not you. It's Bob Odenkirk, and I was just wondering what happened.
You know, to tell you,
Brian?
I guess we'll look over there. I have no idea. I don't know. I mean, I think it's pretty great. I love that Bob Odenkirk is Bob, you know.
Brian's coming. He'll
But
answer.
here we go.
The producer.
I was hoping you were coming up here, not running away.
I was like, I have no answer. No, it was really accessibility. Couldn't find you. I mean, like we like our team, it was about trying to find you. And David, just on a whim, was like, I know Bob Odenkirk. And everybody knows the high school reunion or the yearbook photo, so let's just use that. David's weird. David's a weird dude. And so we were just like, okay. So we just reached out to Bob Odenkirk's wife, and she was like, sure. We just thought it was cute and funny, but
I think it is funny. So I mean, it doesn't bother me. I'm not offended at all. I think, yay for Bob Odenkirk.
And you know what? That's a great question.
I get plenty of unnecessary love as it is. So thank you guys.
because we were also trying to find an actual yearbook photo. That's what we were trying to find. But all of I forgot who the wonderful photographer that was on Halloween. Nancy, was it? What's her name? She came out with a coffee table book.
Yeah. Oh.
Kim Gottlieb.
Kim
Gottlieb,
Kim
yes.
Gottlieb.
Yeah, we poured through that, but we couldn't find something that would work. Like everything was you dead. So.
You know you have to stay here now. Nope. Sit down.
Come on.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy, and I'm a local from Worcester, Mass. My questions go to both James and Nick. My mom has wanted to know personally what it was like for you.
Speak a little louder, please.
Sorry. My question goes to Nick and James, my mom would like to know what it was like for you guys both personally to work with Miss Jamie Lee Curtis herself on these movies with you guys.
What was it like to work with Miss Jamie Lee Curtis?
Well, I'll start because when Jamie did this, it was her first movie. She was 19, I believe. She was a kid. I was 30, I think. And these guys had a wonderful, giggly relationship. The girls there, they really got together and worked with Deborah Hill, by the way, a lot, I think, in terms of solidifying their little world. For me, it was just the fun of having, my favorite time of shoot is lunch. So we'd sit around, have lunch, and talk shit, and that was the fun of knowing Jamie. And over the years, I would see Jamie from time to time, and when I was on the set to do my cameo in the first one, I got to see her again. It was just a tremendous moment where we just saw each other across the lot and rushed at each other and gave ourselves a big hug. But she's a sweetheart. James had a lot of experiences with Jamie, both enjoyable and I think, always enjoyable, but also, a lot of passion.
Yeah, so I consider Jamie a poster child for an empowered woman. She's an amazing human being. Incredibly self-deprecating, humorous, intelligent. She's just a wonderful, and she's a pro. And the highest compliment you can pay somebody in our business is to call them a pro. I mean, it's calling an athlete elite. It's like, this, and so in 2018, I met her about a week in, and then not knowing her and not having worked with her before, I didn't know what her process was. So I knew that her job was going to be very difficult because of the conflict, the conflicting emotion, the flood of emotions she had to deal with, the familial issues, the addiction, all these things, and then my character. So I stayed away from her, and then we were going to do a fight scene, which I had a little trepidation about, because being an actor stuntman, the operative word here being stuntman, fighting is and can be very, very dangerous. So we worked out some stuff, but I hadn't worked with her yet, and we're sitting at opposite ends of the makeup trailer, hair trailer, and she marches down and goes, "Okay, let's talk about this fucking fight scene." And I'm like, "All right, here we go." So we talked about it, and then when on the day when we got out to do it, there's a particular scene where it's not in the ending of 2018. Where she runs out of bullets in her rifle, so she turns around and swings it like a baseball bat, right? Yeah. I've got my blade hanging down like this, and in my head I'm going, oh shit, this is a fucking broken hand. I'm dealing with an actress. I'm not dealing with a stunt person. 30 takes, dude. She hit that blade every single time. That woman's an athlete, right? She's got a body like this. Bounce quarters out that butt. And so, flash forward to Halloween Kills, we didn't see each other. We were never there on the same day. And finally, when we were doing all the photo shoots, she's running around. This is what they tell me. Where's James Jude Courtney? Where's James? Where's Jimmy? Where's Jimmy Shape? Where's Jimmy Shape? But we missed each other. So then we talked on the phone several times before Ends. And then when it came to Ends,
yes.
when we were going to shoot the finale, and this, she and I both say, is the most profound and deep thing we've ever done in film. For me to say that is one thing. For Jamie to say it's a whole other thing. Mm-hmm. So before we took the first take, I was like, Jamie, let's take a walk. So we took a walk over to the corner of the kitchen, and we went beat by beat, and we both had tears running down our cheeks. That scene, at one point when they were putting prosthetic makeup on, my knee, setting up the blood from my neck and setting lights and all this stuff, it took about an hour, and she stood next to me and held my hand because I couldn't move. So she held my hand, we closed our eyes, and we both in that moment, and this is when she thanked me for being such a wonderful scene partner, and I thanked her for the same thing, because when you're doing a scene like that with such deep, powerful emotion, it's real. It's like we're living everything there. There's no pretending. If someone says I'm a good liar, I'd be a good actor, no, you'd suck as an actor. You've got to stand on 2 feet and tell the truth. We went through floods of emotion, of love and hate, of wanting to die and wanting to kill. All these emotions were going back and forth between us. That woman is like, she checks her ego at the door when she's in front of the camera, right? And that's something we all have to do if we're going to make a successful film. And this guy here has to deal with egos when they show up, you know? But I didn't, did I, buddy?
That was a really tough shoot. That was a tough scene to do.
Yeah, it was.
Like Jamie, I remember finding Jamie on a couch, like just off stage, just, you know, kind of recalibrating and catching her breath. But, you know, and I was like, you could take a break. And she's like, fuck no.
No, right?
That's what she said. She was like, get out of here, Turek. Just get me back in there. And I have a beautiful photo, I don't think I've ever posted, of like you and Jamie holding hands, and it's just blood everywhere. Blood everywhere. Chris Nelson pumping the blood.
Yeah. And we ended up, after that week of shooting, we both had bruises from our shoulders to our ankles. I mean, she is so game. That was her head that I put through the glass window. It wasn't the stunt double. I mean, that woman is, I have to say, working with her is one of the highlights of my professional career.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Hello, I'm Eli West. I'm from Vermont. And first I want to say I appreciated seeing the Halloween 3 masks in the Halloween Kills movie. That was pretty cool to see. And then my question, Michael Myers gets shot, burned, stabbed, beat the living shit out of, and then in Kills gets put through a wood chipper. Is he coming back to life?
Yes. As long as there's money to be made from Michael Myers, he will come back to life.
I just want a 4th Halloween 2. That's what I'm
That would be pretty cool. I mean, just seeing him more like a Frankenstein monster than an actual human being. But yeah, so thank you.
I think that's the plot of Cleaver. I don't know if anyone, Sopranos fans in here? Sorry. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rebbe. I'm from New York. I'm wondering, did you have any different envisions for how the character would potentially meet his demise, Nick or James?
What was that?
Sorry, I didn't catch you. You just give a little.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You can pull it up, too. We had a very tiny person who and then no one ever moved it back.
My question is, did you guys have any different envisions for how the character would meet his demise?
Did you have any different alternate visions of how Michael would meet his demise? Different ideas about how Michael would end.
You know, man, because a lot of people ask me about Halloween Ends, and, you know, what do you think of the ending? Here's the deal, man. You know, like, you know, I played football, and if you play any team sport, the number one thing you got to do is buy into the coach's program. If you can't buy into the coach's program, find another freaking team. Because your only chance of winning, let alone winning a championship, is if you buy into the program. So I really firmly believe that my job is, once I accept that job, my job is to fulfill David Gordon Green's vision, to show up to the best of my ability for all these people who put their love and sweat and blood into making this film. So for me, accepting that this was the vision that David Gordon Green had for this trilogy was, for me, the opportunity then to give my best to fulfill that vision for David. It's not my job. Now, that being said, on every single movie and television show I've ever worked on, I'm a writer as well. I'm producing my own films right now. I, of course, am going to have my own vision of things, or maybe things that could be done this way or that way, or a little bit differently. But as far as these go, man, I am just so honored to be a part of this team and to have worked with the 100 and some odd people who made this vision come true. So I think we did a hell of a job, and I'm proud of it. I'm just going to leave it with that.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Tyler. I'm from Connecticut. I had 2 questions, if that's okay. First question.
We'll see how your first question goes.
Okay. All right. So first question's for James. As we all know, the Halloween 2017 or 2018? I don't remember. 18. Is a
Now
direct,
it's 3 questions.
is a direct sequel from Halloween 1978. So in Halloween 2, we learned that Michael and Jane and Laurie are related. Do you think it would have affected any kind of like performance-wise? Like you may have like changed any way you like portrayed the character if they were related in the new series, if that makes sense?
You know, that becomes an intellectualization of a character.
Yeah.
And for me, the expression of this character was so profoundly spiritual. I can't tell you that because I didn't live it. I mean, it's like saying, well, you know, if your dad wasn't your dad, what would your life be like? You know, like, I don't know. What I do know is what I experienced. And everything that I experienced in that character was as real as the life we live here while I was on set in front of a camera. And so what I had to work with was, you know, 1978 to 2018. Everything else is urban myth. It didn't exist. Yeah. It's just, you know, it was people talking. It was the chatterbox. So, you know, I would imagine if you read the Seth material or, you know, some other metaphysical treatise on multiple dimensions and, you know, multiple probable, you know, existences, yeah, okay, we can go there. But I dropped a lot of acid at one point too. I mean, I could go there.
You know, I think David and the writers on the first one made that decision very early on. I remember it in the first draft. They decided to acknowledge that there was some discussion about that and say, no, that was always a myth. That never was true. I think they wanted to, it was simplify the relationship as good and bad, not brother, sister. And I've always liked that idea. I always thought that adding that created, you know, a less of a clean line for the storyline. But I know a lot of people missed it. You know, so it's a little bit of a controversy.
All right. Can I ask the second one? All right.
Shoot your shot.
And the last question for me is for Nick. So it was hinted, or like it was kind of commented, but like Michael was put in an asylum. He was so young. How the hell did he learn how to drive a car?
And not only that, but look both ways, and I think use a turn signal. I've
seen many people drive, and there's like
Smith's Grove had a very good driver's education program. Turns out.
All right, thank you.
That's my answer.
Hello, I am Benjamin. I'm from that one part of Massachusetts where we send all the Portuguese people. Ever been to the New Bedford area? Everyone there is Portuguese. I don't know why. Anyways, this isn't really a question about Halloween, but a general question for the most of you, for all of you, is what's your greatest fear?
Marriage. You notice Sarah's not here.
Yeah.
It's a big commitment.
Our greatest fear in terms of our work or in just as human beings?
As human beings.
Oh. What's your greatest fear?
Oh, gosh. Well, I don't think it's the boogeyman, but I guess, you know, just not, my greatest fear is that, you know, that I would not feel well enough to enjoy a day. So I guess at this point in my life, you know, when things start creaking and breaking down, I just want everything that I already have. So that's what I always say, and I want it to be a happy day.
I guess my greatest fear is the people that I love dying and having to live through that. That's scary.
Or dogs.
Or dogs. My dog just
lost his dog.
put my dog down. But I know, it's terrible. So see, maybe that's why I'm thinking that's my greatest fear, because, yeah.
I was hoping for something silly like horses.
What?
You gave me some very serious answers.
Thank you, doctor.
If any of you need therapy, I'm available.
Can you say something in Portuguese?
Vai tomar no cu.
Oh, what's that?
Take it up the ass.
Sorry, I asked.
No. It's just like
That's
the only
my greatest fear.
Hi, my name's Ash. I'm from New Hampshire, and my question is mostly for James and Nick, but I guess anyone could hop in. Did you ever have like a mental picture of who Michael was behind the mask, like as a person, whether it's like through his personality or who he really looked like or anything like that?
You go first.
Well, we did see what he looked like under the mask in terms of Tony Moran played that scene where he's revealed. So physically, you did get a chance to take a look at him. As far as emotionally, psychologically, I think it was John's intention. I think it was a good one to keep it a mystery. And so, no matter what you did as an actor or whatever the hell I was when I was doing that, there was no intent. It was more like, for me, the experience was more like John is a puppeteer and I'm his puppet. And so wherever I'm going, almost in a fog by way of his direction. And I think that worked for the first one especially, because it's. You then fill in the gap of who that guy is underneath the mask, and your interpretation makes it even, I think, scarier because of that. So the lack of specificity is kind of like, more of the fact that he's this unknown evil presence.
But then you also do think about Will Sandon, who was just so cute.
Yeah.
And so when I think of Michael Myers and I know Will and I see Will, I go, how did he turn out this way? What happened? Because he was so cute.
I think, for me, I had the blessing of two wonderful parents. My father was a combat veteran, airborne in Korea, and a stock car racer, engineer. He raised my six brothers and I to go into mission mode. Like his had these very strict rules. Like, if you start a sport, you can't quit that season. He always just say winners never quit and quitters never win. All these little dadisms that he had. So I learned early on that once I chose a mission, the mission was the thing, and everything else was superfluous. So I never intellectualized. Once I grasped what Nick had what Deborah Hill and John Carpenter had created, what Nick had so brilliantly manifested in physical form. Once I captured the essence of that, and no, you're not getting it back, you son of a bitch. Once I captured the essence, then that was self-directing. And then that filtered through my life experience and as an actor, as a human being. So, think about it. Do we walk around every day thinking about what we look like, or what we, how we're being perceived, or how we perceive ourselves? No, man, we live our lives. We have the mission of living every day. So, I think, and I get a lot of questions about intellectualizing this character. I don't know that I will ever intellectualize this character, because for me, it's such a sacred and special place. Which is why I will never put a costume on and do photo ops. For me personally, that would make it into a clown in a sideshow. And this character is so sacred to me, and the people that I worked with are so sacred to me, that I would never ever want to make it anything less than the profoundly beautiful experience of just being that it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have to wrap up, but we have time for both of you, so we got two more questions up there. Yeah.
Hello, my name's Cassie. I'm from New Hampshire. PJ, my question is actually to you, because Carrie is my favorite movie of all time. And you obviously are in Carrie as well as Halloween. So what was it like working as a young actress, especially back in like the 70s and 80s? Those are, in the horror genre, you always hear actresses saying it was such a tough time. How was it for you working with Jamie Lee Curtis and Sissy Spacek in those two such huge influential, sorry about that, horror movies at the time? What was your experience?
Well, Carrie was my first film, so that was in 1975. I just come from New York, and it was a great experience because it was most of the cast that was in Carrie. It was their first film, except for Sissy. She had done a few films before. And Brian De Palma, it wasn't like everyone knows him now, and the same with John Carpenter. These were unknown, really, directors. Brian probably a little bit more on the map. Carrie was a studio picture, so big difference. He had a particular way of directing that was less about talking to actors, but more about what it was going to look like. So for him, the DP was very important, setting the shot. But he, like John, he gave us a lot of leeway to ad-lib, because my character Norma is not in the book, not in the Stephen King book. I had one line, and after he saw the dailies, he put me on for the rest of the shoot. So that was a great experience, a great first-time experience where I thought, oh, good, if you do well, you're going to, get ahead. And of course, I wanted the footage from that movie, because in those days you carried around a little, VHS and scenes of your movies, and so that helped me get in the door. And probably John saw Carrie, and then that experience was wonderful too, because he had a very loose attitude towards if you want to ad-lib or add anything. So I think there were less totallys written in the script than what I actually said. So that was one thing I pumped up. I said, let me know if it becomes obnoxious. But so I thought that was the way it was. And it was. I had great experiences. The only times I didn't was if I was a guest star on a television series or show. It just was a very different type of working atmosphere. They wanted you to stick to the script. You had to only move from blocking to blocking. You couldn't, it wasn't so I realized right away that wasn't my thing. So, but it was nice.
Thank you. Have a
And
great
by the way,
day.
Carrie,
But not the sequels.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Adrian. I'm from Massachusetts, and this question is for James. From one stunt actor to another, I have a question about before you would do any type of stunt work on set, did you have like a mantra that you would say in the mirror, or would you stretch, or what would you do to prepare yourself before doing stunt work?
Great question.
It's like any athletic event. I think being stretched and warm, absolutely. Never doing anything cold, especially when you're fighting, because you're gonna, and especially as you know, as a stunt performer, you're going hard to the body. Like, you guys don't realize this, but out of this film, and I don't report injuries because everybody gets in trouble. But I had bruised ribs, 2 hematomas. I got a concussion in the tunnel. It was a minor concussion. As an athlete, you know what that feels like—a spike in the center of the brain, a halo. But what do? You keep going. Because if you call, and I probably shouldn't be saying this, but if you call the nurse in, then all of a sudden you're like, there's all this crap that goes on when you can keep going, right? And so there's one time early on when I got a tiny little cut and the nurse wanted to make a report, and I'm like, come on, man, what are you doing? It's like, but the important thing is being physically prepared, being in the best shape we can be in, being hyper aware, so not having a hangover, when you're working, so you don't hurt somebody or get hurt. And yeah, absolutely. Stretching afterwards. And sometimes it's really tough, man, after 12 hours or 14 hours and your body's stiff and you're beat. That's why God made hot showers and cold compresses and, pain patches. And yeah, good luck, man. I hope you kill it.
Do you use the foam roll?
Do a foam roller?
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I found something really cool, dude. It's called a DNA Vibe belt. For you guys, anybody that has pain, man, I'm telling you, this stuff it stimulates the mitochondria to produce the ATP molecule. It's a combination of red light, near infrared light, pulsing electromagnetic field, and vibration. DNA Vibe, and it's so powerful. And a lot of times when you get banged up, I just slap that puppy on and go to sleep with it, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, what a testament to the power of this whole thing, this whole mythology of Halloween and Michael Myers, that it's been able to sustain 3 different pieces of the franchise, and how much we all love it, and it all goes back to this brilliant, perfect masterpiece of a film. So thank you for being in here and celebrating it with all of us. Thank you so much for being here, everyone.
Hey there, this is Nolan North, and you are watching Fandom Spotlite. Good for you. Very proud of you. Now go watch more. Oh, and have fun and follow your fandom. I like that. like it a lot.